He goes, I got $1 million idea. I said, you do? Oh, do tell. And you remember those old photo huts that were on the corner of the road? You could drop your 35 millimeter film off. I'm dating myself, but they would have it developed in an hour and you could pick up your prints.
It wasn't an hour back then. It was like 3 days or something, wasn't it?
Well, they had 1 hour full. I don't know, but they were little photo hut things on corners of roads. Anyway, so Brian says, he goes, I got this $1 million idea. And I'm like, do tell, he says, what we need to do, because all those photo huts are going away. They're shutting down. They got these empty buildings. We need to go and start an espresso company. I said, what the hell's espresso? And he says, it's Italian coffee. I'm like, and he goes, well, what we'll do is we'll make this Italian coffee, right? And then people, when they're driving into work, they're going to pull up to this photo hut just like they're dropping off film, but they're going to buy that Italian coffee from us instead of making it at home. I said, this is your $1 million idea. He goes, yeah. So we're going to sell 10-cent cups of coffee and we're going to get rich. He goes, no, we're going to sell them for like $3 and $4 a drink.
And guess what? That is $100 million idea now.
Well, here's what I said. I said, you must be out of your mind. We're not going to get rich selling coffee. What we need to do is get our butts back up there. Halibut season's coming. We always do good on that. Now, hindsight being what it is, and I'm sharing this because don't let somebody ever steal your dreams either in the process. Don't let somebody tell you that's not $1 million idea. Maybe they're short-sighted, but in that scenario, I knew where I could make money. I already had the boat. I had the equipment. I was like, okay, let's go and do this. And I'm like, coffee. I didn't even really drink coffee back then. Italian coffee, my gosh, that's way too bougie for me. Interesting footnote to it. 10 years later, I own 5 drive-through coffee stands and sit-down bistro. I actually ended up being one of the largest private buyers of coffee in the area that I lived in, and did really, really well. And it was $1 million idea. So, but it took me 10 years to get there from that point. So where could I have been? Right.
Right.
All right. So it's your turn.
All right.
We're running here. Dave, good question. Appreciate that. All right. So we have Mike out of New York. He says, be honest. Do I really need a business plan or can I just wing it?
That's a great question. So I'm going to be honest too. I've never created a business plan until the past 4 or 5 years. Right. I didn't even really, school of hard knocks, right? So didn't ever even, I got into business and just got in and started working and showing the bank I was making money. And then I had some employees that were trying to buy one of my businesses and they created this big business plan and had this whole thing showing the bank how it's going to work. And I was like, that's pretty smart. Now they didn't get approved because of their financial situation, but I think it's smart to have a business plan because number one, getting into the business and setting it up the way you want to set it up, and then having a way to track your metrics, so that way if in 6 months you're not doing X, you can go and correct it and make it right. So having a business plan, gotta have it, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of with your school of thought on that, especially given the fact that for years and years didn't really have a business plan. I had some form of an articulation of what I was going to do, or the old napkin, cocktail napkin, written out. And if we did this and we did that and we sold it for this, we'd yield that and we could retain and blah, blah, blah. So I think a lot of great business plans are done on cocktail napkins. But what's really interesting now with AI and things like that, you can definitely create them. It already knows the questions that you should be answering, and then it formulates the whole thing together. We could talk about that another time, but there's having a business plan is actually a great way to get your mind straight as far as setting goals and where you're trying to go within your business. And it increases the likelihood of you being successful if you're following that chronology. We school of hard knocks, and we learned some hard lessons, I think, throughout our life. We've talked about that amongst each other quite a bit. Maybe someday we'll talk about some of those hard life lessons here on GrindWise. But yeah, I'm right in line with you on that.
Yep.
Hey, do you mind if I cut in and ask you another one?
Go for it.
Because this is stacking up here. There's some good ones. So Benjamin, doesn't say where Benjamin's from, but Benjamin, thank you for writing in. Appreciate you. I hear people talk about LLCs and corporations, but do I even need to register my business if I'm just starting? Like, I guess he's saying, hey, I'm just getting started. I got a snapper lawnmower. Do I need to register this business? What do I need? Is this necessary? Can I just start business?
Yeah, I would recommend that you start the business before you start the business.